This is the drinking post. I just finished installing 4 of them. It's the best water delivery method for all of your livestock. It operates and installs like a yard hydrant. The animal presses down or to the side with different paddles. The bowl fills, they get crisp, cool water all summer long and liquid water all winter long without the use of electricity. This is a full overview of the system, serviceability of the system, and how I installed it and why I chose it over other drinking water methods. Put in that infrastructure, it's the most important thing. That's like winning right there. The animal simply presses down or to the side. It instantly fills up with water, the animal drinks, and then it very quickly drains down into a flood bed underground. So there's no water to freeze all winter long, and it always provides crisp, cool water for all your livestock. Drinking posts come in all different heights. I had to get the longest one for my location up in northern Canada because our frost line is so deep. Every drinking post is kind of the same, and you get different paddles for different types of livestock. Each drinking post comes with a training paddle for your cattle and horses. After they know what they're doing, you can just take it off. But for pigs, there's an end. For goats, there's an end. They like to hit it, and it's a little bit easier to fill the bowl. So this works with all sorts of 4-legged livestock, including my dog was drinking from it. So I installed 4 drinking post waterers and 4 yard hydrants with them. So this one is for my west pasture, and everything is kind of close to my operation, where in the winter I only have to shovel some snow, and I can feed from here, check all the waterers from here. The other one is on the south side of this building. Both of these are going to have a little lean-to thing, 3-sided, that I'm going to make to prevent the north wind and extreme winter from hitting them, and also provide some of that sun to reflect and keep them from freezing even better in our extreme -50. So I have one here for pasture, one for paddocks and corrals, like my bullpen, and another one that's going to be 2-sided or access from both sides for livestock in this initial shed. And then the other one is hundreds and hundreds of feet. I had to take down fence, cross my road into my east pasture. Another thing that was very important to me and a selling feature was serviceability. So this yard hydrant, for example, does not have a serviceable valve. So 10 feet down from here is the valve. When this hydrant screws up decades from now or whatever, it has to be dug up and replaced. The drinking post, however, is completely serviceable. All the parts can be pulled up and cleaned, the valve replaced 10 feet under the ground. It's a simple heavy-duty PVC outer, and with your hands, you spin out the innards and bring them all up. So if you have to clean the drain, if you have to clean the calcium or something out of the valve with a little toothpick or something, or replace the valve, all of the parts for the whole drinking post system are replaceable and relatively inexpensive to get parts, readily available as well. So when the drinking post screws up, because again, nothing's foolproof, I believe they come with a 5-year warranty as it is, but let's say 10 years down the road, I should service all of the valves and replace them. I simply unscrew it, pull it up, replace the valve, put it back down. It has a very nice guide. You get to about 16 inches above the valve, which is a male end, and then the part you pull out has a female end. So you guide it back down, first put on liquid Teflon. You can't put on Teflon 10 feet down, obviously, or a pipe dope for PVC to seal it up, guide it in, screw it back in place after you replace or service any parts, and you're good to go again. So this is the complete installation of how you install the drinking post. If all else fails, I guess you read the instructions. You can get drinking posts in all different sizes. So if you're lucky enough to live where the frost doesn't go down as deep, it's much easier to install and even cheaper to buy a drinking post. In my case, up in northern Canada, I had to get the biggest and longest drinking post. This is a 10-foot drinking post and a 10-foot yard hydrant. So if your frost is only 2, 3, 4 feet, you can trench in all your water lines with a simple skid steer trencher, lay the water lines in, and it's really, really simple for you. I had to hire a big excavator with a 3-foot wide bucket in order to get properly down 10 feet for all of my water lines and to access the bottom of the drinking post waters. I did most of my fittings above ground, so all I had was one simple connection under the ground for plumbing wise. Everything else was done above surface. Because using an excavator and 10 feet down for trenching, I ran all of my water lines and some electrical conduits I ran as well above, next to where the trench is going to be. So as we dug the trench, I laid the water lines in very simply and even threw some insulation over. Ahead of digging all of the trenches for the other 3 waters and 3 hydrants that I'm putting in the corrals and my handling area, I ran all the water lines and conduits in case I want to run additional lines like Wi-Fi, electricity, anything like that. But I ran them all before we started digging too and duct taped them together. So now as we dig, I can just lay it in and throw insulation, and then I can immediately backfill. So I have 4 water lines, 3 conduits, should be good. And those run all the way and out of the way, out of the barn. So my water lines are down 10 feet and they even have rigid insulation over, especially where we had to cross my driveway that when a vehicle drives, it drives down the frost even further. I've seen the frost go down as far as 11 feet where I live. So at the bottom of your drinking post, and hopefully you put a yard hydrant at the same time, for me is 10 feet down for a 10-foot drinking post. Now, if you have to go down as deep as me, there's a risk of cave-ins and things. This is called shoring. Make sure you have a good supply of 2x4s and lumber on hand to prevent any big clumps from caving in 10 feet under the darn ground when I have to go down there and make a couple fittings. Shoring on the other ones. So this one's just a drinking post. This other one's a drinking post and a hydrant. Whole bunch of 2x4s. Probably 50 of them I've used so far for shoring. Took the shoring out of this frost-free hydrant that goes into the barn. And yeah, so as the excavator's digging, measure your height. The first thing I did was put in some weeping tile in the trench, perforated weeping tile. So the trench is very nice and clean. Weeping tile, a couple pieces, just kind of scraps that I had in the trench as a little extra place for water to go. Then I put a foot of crushed rock in the bottom of the trench and leveled it out so that weeping tile is in there. So I've got my hole 10 feet deep. I put a scoop of crushed rock with some weeping tile underneath it. The next thing you do is put in either a concrete cinder block for the drinking post to sit on or a couple of bricks. So this is a 10-foot deep hole. I put 1 foot of crushed rock. The drinking post is going to be set on a cinder block to kind of hold it in the right spot. So it sits there very nice for you. What I did for both the hydrant and the drinking post is I sacrificed a T-post or a piece of rebar and hammered it in and duct taped the hydrant and the drinking post to it to hold it relatively level for me when it comes to the backfilling stage. Make your plumbing connections at this point. So the drinking post and hydrant are installed. After you make your plumbing connections, do a pressure test and check for leaks on any of the fittings and any of the lines. 10 feet down is a long way. You don't want any leaks. East pasture, drinking post, and hydrant. So this is how the bottom of a frost-free hydrant works. You see? So when you shut it off, it drains out there. This drains a whole lot slower than the drinking post actually drained quite fast. So, perfect, but no leaks in my fittings. After you're satisfied that all your plumbing is very good, you put another foot of crushed rock in there and it covers up the valves. So now when the drinking post drains or the hydrant drains, it drains in that 2 foot by 3 foot and about 12 foot long gravel flood bed, crushed rock flood bed, and that weeping tile. After that beautiful crushed rock is on, get some landscape fabric and protect your backfill from contaminating into your nice crushed rock flood bed. I taped the landscape fabric, or first cut it around the drinking post and slipped it down. And then I taped it around the drinking post to kind of hold it solid. And that protects any contaminants from getting into your nice flood bed. Now, on top of that, I have a bunch of used insulation suitable for moisture and in the ground. I cut it around the drinking post and the hydrant and even spray foamed it to it. So on top of that crushed rock flood bed is fully insulated, just in the off chance that frost drives down and gets anywhere close to my valve and water line system. I am fully insulated, protected from the frost. A little extra that you might want to do if you have access to that insulation. Then taking some very light, dry material without any heavy rocks or anything, backfill very, very slowly. Now check for level as you go. You backfill a little bit, check the drinking post and the hydrant to make sure that they stayed perfectly level for you. If you put a foot or two of backfill, you can still kind of move them around, check for level, kind of tamp it with your foot. I suppose we should throw a bucket on it before we backfill so we don't fill up the drinking post full of gunk. After a little tiny bit of backfill, then you can remove any shoring that you had to do. So at this point, I unscrewed all my shoring and pulled out every 2x4 that I had. Sometimes I had to sacrifice a 2x4, just cut it off because it was stuck in there so good. I drove the shoring into the ground and screwed it to prevent any big chunks from caving in while I had to work down there.
Never going to financially recover from the loss of those 12-foot 2x4s.
Once that shoring is removed, continue to backfill with nice, clean, no big boulders or nothing. Then backfill, tamp, check for level, backfill, tamp, check for level. Get it up to almost grade, and then because I am a little bit crazy and have this insulation, I traced around the drinking post with a 4x4 sheet of insulation, cut it out, slipped insulation down just a few inches below grade as a little bit extra to prevent any frost from coming into that drinking post. And same with the hydrant. Oh, might have to hawk to this one. Then I put some crushed rock and some gravel so I'm not ever standing in, and my livestock are never standing in a mud hole. I also like to install the drinking post and hydrant at a high point, so kind of an ever so slight hill, so water drains away. I don't want it in a low point. And for my operation, where I run the half-acre cow, Dexters I run, as well as heritage pigs, goats, and who knows, we might get some sheep or some other things like that. This is a good height for cows, full-size goats. It's about a little below my knee, kind of around my shin there. Now, what I'm doing to integrate, because I run multiple livestock, is I'm going to put a post and a post, PWF board, and then an earthened ramp at the back of all of my drinking posts so that baby pigs, baby goats, and my heritage pigs that have no legs and no neck can actually come up and access the drinking post easy. So the larger livestock can access it from one side, and the smaller livestock or heritage pigs can access it from the other side. That board and earthen ramp can give it a little bit of extra protection if you're running full-size cows with horns that are kind of rowdy. That's good protection for them. Now that you are fully installed, you can clip in your training paddle for the livestock, or your goat paddle or pig paddle if that's what you're solely running it for, and you can begin to train your animals because it is fully installed. Now, you're going to need to get water from somewhere to run for your water lines, and it would be nice to have valves to access. So in my case, I dug to the well, and I dug in by hand to find my 1-inch main line from my submersible pump to the shop control panel. I teed in that 1-inch line, 1 inch to 3/4 out, and I ran that to a manifold that I made in the heated part of my barn. It's live from the well. Not all plumbing fittings are the same. This is a light duty one from Home Depot. This is a heavy duty one from a place that I get all my fittings from, Southern Irrigation. I'm just planning out my manifolds, but even for underground, some guys say use brass or even stainless. Well, this brass fitting is like $40. I'm okay using this thick plastic fitting for under the ground. After all, I'm using poly pipe anyways. And I put 2 clamps on, stainless clamps, but I will not use these light duty fittings from your local hardware store. Because I had the well casing exposed 10 feet down anyways, I also drilled a hole and put a pitless adapter that gives me the ability to put a separate pump. If I don't want to use my main farm's water pump system, I can put a little solar pump or just a small other one that will run the hydrants and the livestock watering system. The manifold I made, each zone, so this east pasture has 1 zone. It's a T to the drinking post and then to the hydrant, just because it's such a long run. So I have 1 valve. If I ever have to service the drinking post, I go into the barn and I can turn just this one off and service either the hydrant or the drinking post. The only part of this whole system I have to worry about freezing is until I get my room in the barn heated and insulated up. I had to insulate around my manifold, and I'm going to put a heat tape that's activated by temperature. So if it ever gets to close to freezing, the heat tape turns on, and I'm going to wrap that around all the pipes and all the valves. So that's going to require some electricity because your valves need to be accessible and above ground. It's also super insulated into the barn, 8 feet out, all around, 8 feet down on all sides of where all the plumbing pipes come up, to make sure that nothing freezes on me underground and bursts any of my pipes. And it is that simple to install. It is much easier than a conventional watering bowl. This is a conventional livestock watering system. It comes with a ball valve to keep water in there all the time, but there's always standing water in there. This needs electricity. There's a 350 watt element on this one. Plus, there's a water line that's always exposed to the cold, and you need heat tape around the water line and the valve when you install it. This is more expensive to install as well. You have to run electricity, and that electricity runs all winter long, so there's a bill for that. If the electricity ever cuts out on you, whether it's solar or the grid, this is going to freeze up, and your water line and valve is going to freeze and possibly burst. This needs a concrete pad, so you bring up the conduit and then the water line in between and your electrical. Then you pour a concrete pad, drill 4 holes in the concrete to bolt this down, hook up your water line, hook up your electricity to it. This still freezes up. It doesn't matter what you do where I live, this freezes up, but these freeze up more. Cattle also like to splash water, so this gives them the ability to splash water, whereas they can't really splash water with the drinking post as well. This has standing water as well, so if they're not drinking a lot, it won't be as clean as the drinking post. The drinking post is cheaper and it's easier to install, and it doesn't come with an ongoing electricity cost, unlike the conventional water. Now, the other reason why I like the drinking post is it operates and installs like a yard hydrant. And I wanted yard hydrants all over the place as well, because I was doing the trenching anyways. This does not operate like a yard hydrant and doesn't need a massive flood bed with crushed rock underground. So when you install the drinking post, put a hydrant 3-4 feet away, install it so it has a bigger flood bed underneath. So the same flood bed operates the hydrant and the water, giving it better operation. Whereas if you wanted a hydrant and to install this, you have to do both. Install a flood bed just for the hydrant, and then this doesn't need it. So this with a yard hydrant makes a whole lot of sense. Now, nothing in this life is foolproof. These traditional watering bowls freeze up even with the use of electricity. People will chip ice and hammer ice because there's a lot of standing water here. There's not much water in the, or if any water, in the top of the drinking post. It's just a smaller bowl. The water fills up, the animal drinks, and then it drains down past the frost line. If the drinking post freezes up, I can use this yard hydrant, trickle a little bit of water till it drains, and then it's unfrozen. Or at absolute worst, I bring some warm water, and there's not much water to freeze up in here. I can pour it in and it'll work. Whereas this is a lot of chipping. You'll have an ice sheet around because the cows will be splashing, and that ongoing electricity cost. Everyone that has a drinking post says they love it, and it's only in the extreme blizzard and extreme cold temperatures that they will have to do any sort of thawing out the top of it. The drinking post is heavy-duty PVC, 10 feet in the ground, very, very, very strong. If you're worried about cattle, if you have like full-size cattle with horns and stuff, there's a few things you can do. Drinking post says get a tire and put it around to give it a little bit of protection, but I am not worried about it at all. I'm as worried about the destruction of the drinking post as if I installed one of these waterers. So I bought 2 of these, and I was considering them installing while I was doing the trenching, but instead I put in 4 drinking posts, and I'm not even bothering with these because I don't want an exposed water line that could freeze that I have to run heat to the valve and the water line, and I don't want the headache. So I'm reselling these if anybody's interested. This is fresh water. I filled it up. It was about a quarter full, and already it's got a slight green tinge. It's plus 30 Celsius outside. Standing water. This one I got to dump out daily and redo. Already it's got green in there. This is water that I wouldn't drink. The reason why you go with a drinking post is it's fresh water direct from the well, nice and cool for the animals. No algae growth in the summertime. That is invaluable. Oh, Piggy's having a bath. I want my animals to have the cleanest water possible. This offers them that all summer long, all winter long. It's the least amount of maintenance. It's completely serviceable. It was the best price and the easiest to install. So I'm very happy with my decision. Now, subscribe to my YouTube channel for updates. Winter's coming up in a few months, and I will do an update of its use in the wintertime. And I'm excited to train all my animals, including doing this earthen step for my pigs and my smaller animals. And what a good feeling to get that main infrastructure in. Now I can do the other stuff like fix my fence, do the paddocks and corrals, and really get a really good setup. Like and subscribe, and I'll put all the links to the drinking post. You can find a dealer near you. You can do your own research, but I highly recommend it. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.